Hey, I'm Todd Jones. I host the podcast Press Box Access. Here's a clip from my interview with Malcolm Moran. Malcolm tells us about the interview he did with Jack Youngblood before the Hall of Fame defensive lineman played a Super Bowl on a broken leg.
The last time the Los Angeles Rams were in a Super Bowl, the game was in Pasadena. I was already on the West Coast, so they keep me there.
This is January 1980 when they're going to play.
January of 1980, which is 42 years ago. And there were two out-of-town people keeping track of the Rams that week.
That's it?
Me and Mike O'Hara from Detroit.
Two.
Were two out-of-town people. And now where that comes in handy is that I was assigned to do a story that was going to be, there were going to be twin features in the Monday paper at the start of Super Bowl week. So next week's Monday paper. And the concept was profiles of the two most influential players, the two most important leaders in this game. Clearly for the Rams, it's Jack Youngblood, who is the Hall of Fame. He eventually became a Hall of Fame defensive lineman.
Wasn't he playing on a broken leg too?
Yes, yeah. And you're way ahead of me. The complicating factor was that he had a fracture in a leg. He intended to play, and he was extremely sensitive about the way he was being portrayed. It bothered him that he was being viewed as this reckless guy who's going to play on a broken leg.
That's interesting.
And so during the daily availability, there's a small group, two out-of-towners, I'm one of them, and he doesn't want to talk about it. Well, this is a problem, because this is the most important aspect of this story, and for totally understandable reasons, he doesn't want to talk about it. So at the end of the day, the Rams, this is when the Rams were in the process of moving to Anaheim. And so the Rams complex was a former elementary school. The only reason I can tell you that the founder of the Girl Scouts was Juliet Lowe is because the Los Angeles Rams were set up at the Juliet Lowe Elementary School in Anaheim. And so at the end of the day, as the sun is going down, it's around 5 o'clock, it's a little bit chilly, and I am waiting in the parking lot for Jack Youngblood to come out so that I can make my pitch. And the term elevator pitch had not been part of the public lingo, but essentially that's what it was. I remember seeing him emerge and thinking, you got about 15 seconds. And I went up to him, I introduced myself, and I said, I work for the New York Times. I've been assigned this profile about you because you're the most important leader on this team. And I understand why you're reluctant to talk about your situation, but it's a really important part of your situation. And I was just wondering if you might have a few minutes to talk about it. And I completely understand your reluctance. And to my great surprise, he said, what do you need?
Really?
And we stood behind his pickup in the parking lot of this former elementary school. There's nobody else around. And he basically described how the doctors had advised him that there was no risk of additional damage. It was a question of how much pain he could tolerate, and he wanted to give it a try. And he wasn't being reckless. He wasn't doing anything that he felt would put him in jeopardy. He wanted to give it a try. And then he started getting fidgety after about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I figured, well, he's going to cut this off, and I'm better off than I was 10 minutes ago. And he turns toward the back of his pickup, and he says, you want a beer? and he had this cooler in the back of the pickup with beer on ice. And I said, okay. And I didn't have any of it until we were done, But I didn't, at this point, I certainly don't want to be antisocial. And so he finished the conversation, and I thanked him, and that's how my initiative was rewarded. And, you know, that's something I worry about for this generation, because it's almost impossible for that kind of initiative to be rewarded in that kind of way.
Well, I was going to say, I think the lesson of that great story is that you just have to be there. You have to be there. You have to try to find a way to get to somewhere that you think you might not be able to be, because you just never know, you know?
Well, and Gay Talese used to refer to it as the art of hanging out.
Right. Exactly.
To gain the trust of a person to whatever extent that you could be a fly on the wall.